There you go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand? Join with me in the pledge to our flag and our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing for a prayer, please.
Will you pray with me? God, we just thank you for today. I thank you for these leaders and their time and their commitment to our community. God, in the decisions tonight, we pray that your hand would be at work. We pray for wisdom. We pray for just a spirit of unity and oneness in a nation that is so deeply divided. God, and in that, we also pray for unity for our nation. Help us in the days ahead, Lord. Help us to lean on you. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your grace and for your mercy. In your Son's precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor Fields. Call to order our special city council meeting of September 8th. Second item on our agenda is public comments, community announcements, recognitions. Do we have anything, Kim? Okay, I know we do have a proclamation I'd like to present. Right up here, ladies. This proclamation is sponsored by the Daughters of the American Revolution, the DAR, and I will read the proclamation. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to the rule by law, and whereas September 17, 2020 marks the 233rd anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this significant document and its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore I, Stephen J. Gentling, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Guthrie, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution had in 1737 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties. In witness thereof, I have set hands and caused the seal of the city of Guthrie to be affixed this 8th day of September, the year of our Lord, 2020. And I had the honor and privilege of signing that. Ladies representing the DAR, let's see, we have anybody taking a photo? You want to take a photo? Who's taking a photo?
We all can.
Okay. Let's get on this side then. If Chris is going to take a photo, let's get a good one here. Okay? Now get next to the tall ones.
Really smile.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, item number 3 is consent agenda, items A through O. Wow. A, approval of the minutes of our special city council workshop of August 18th. B is the approval of the minutes of the city council meeting of August 18th. C is the approval of the minutes of the emergency city council meeting of August 25th. D is the confirmation of the motion made at the emergency city council meeting to grant a certificate of appropriateness to the DOT with qualifications. E is approve the engagement letter with Crawford and Associates for accounting and consulting in fiscal year of 2021. F is the approval of the contract of NORPS to provide information technology and consultation services. G is the approval and recommendations from the Commissioners of the Guthrie Housing Authority to reappoint Scott Weiskel and John Donaso to the Housing Board with terms expiring in August of 2023. H is the approval of the Civil Defense Siren Maintenance Agreement between the city and Goddard Industries. I is the approval and renewal of the Honor Park lease between the City of Guthrie and the American Legion. J is the approval of the agreement between the City of Guthrie and Logan County Community Services for the temporary shelter care of juveniles. K is to approve the EMS agreement between the City of Guthrie and Logan County Emergency Medical District Number 1 for EMS services. L is the approval of professional service agreement with Dr. Warden to serve as the medical director of the Guthrie Fire Department Emergency Medical Services. M is the approval of Resolution 2020-15, which establishes a 911 emergency telephone fee for calendar year 2021. N is the approval of a contract between the City of Guthrie and Mike Smith to provide grass management services to the airport. And O is the approval of budget amendment number 9, amending the budget for general fund, fire fund, grant fund, and airport fund. Are there any questions about any of those consent agenda items? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion then.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor raise their right hand. Opposed, same sign. Unanimous approval from those council present. And to approve consent agenda items A through O. Item number 4 is a public hearing for fiscal year 2021 for the budget of general fund and miscellaneous funds. I'll now open this to a public hearing. Leroy, you want to start the presentation?
It hasn't changed a lot since we had our workshop on the budget. The first slide is just showing the notice we put in the paper, and we have an affidavit publication that we posted it in the newspaper. One too many. Where we're at now is air trigger here. Of course, we had the workshop back on August 18th. We published it on the 2nd. And tonight we will have the public hearing on the general fund portion of the budget during this meeting. And then when we get to the Guthrie Public Works Authority, we will have, I don't know why it's jumping so much. We will have a second public hearing on the Public Works Authority portion of budget. After this public hearing, you adopt one resolution for the general fund related budgets, and then during the Public Works meeting, you will adopt a second resolution for that. Of course, our budget year starts on October 1, and then by October 31st, our city clerk will submit our budget documents to the state auditor. We went over this before, and again, in the retreat and the hearing, but you can see that financial stability is building for us. If you look at the beginning fund balance of select funds, some of our major funds, general fund, Public Works Authority, and the stabilization funds for the general fund and Gpwa. At the start of budget year 2017, those four funds had 2.5 million, and you can see they have been steadily growing. And when you add in additional monies we'll put in the stabilization funds this year, at the end of the 2020 year one budget you will consider adopting tonight, we will have gone from $2.5 million to just under $6 million balance in those funds. Sales tax, of course, a lot of volatility in sales tax. We had projected a 7.5% increase in sales tax for the current year. Just sent out to you a report from Kim this morning. Actually, we ended FY '20 with a 9% increase. We had another good year or good month. And in our budget, we projected 3% growth for next year, trying to be conservative. Some of the things that have helped us, of course, keeping our sales tax up this year, Lazy Arena has brought in a lot of events that typically had been at other locations, but with COVID-19 could not perform there. So we had a lot of people in town spending money from those events. There's multiple factors. Another one I would highlight, a lot of our vendors in town have been creative through this process. Stables changed the way they did their salad bar so they could continue the salad bar when they were able to reopen. They did an off-site location during the COVID-19. Dominion House did curbside dining and pickup. They even worked with Cash Saver and Safeway to have some prepared meals sold at Cash Saver and also in Oklahoma City at Safeway. So we had a lot of businesses do creative things during COVID-19 to continue doing their business and also generating sales tax. Use tax took a little dip this month. It was $10,000 less this month as in September last year, but still sales tax is roughly 26% growth this year, and we projected 10% growth next year. With all the internet sales the last few years coming on board to pay sales tax, it has really helped our revenue stream. Through the retreat, we went through where we were as far as capital improvement sales tax. If you just look at a flat rate on the 4-year average, we'd have roughly 19 million, and then depending on whether you projected a 2% or 3%. But our money is pretty much either been expended or obligated for projects with in the future, once we see how our growth rate is, there may be some additional dollars. This year, of course, the wastewater treatment plant, the industrial park, and phase 1 of Owensfield softball complex are big things for us this year under the CIP. This is the schedule for the wastewater treatment plant. We hope to move forward and close on funding for that. The first $8 million in December of this year, and the second $8 million in January, and start construction in February. The funding for that is $16 million, or the cost is $16.8 for the plant, and the sludge box and dewatering $335,000. We opened the bid on that, and it was higher than what we estimated, so we may postpone part of that and build it into the actual construction budget and just do the sludge removal, but not the dewatering box until we construct it. So we'll probably be coming back to you with that. And the funding for the facility, of course, $16 million bond issue from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, $1.2 million out of our Fund 65, where we've been building up money for the wastewater treatment plant. And then we backloaded the way that we pay off that bond issue. The balance, $4 million out of the CIP fund is going towards the wastewater treatment plant. This is the balance of that $4 million that we've not spent yet. Some funds out of the operating fund. And then as certain bond issues are paid off, like the water plant, the CMOM, the water line to Langston, as they pay off, then those funds become available for debt service. So it is backloaded. Another project this year that we will be moving forward on is the industrial park, 77 acres, has a budget of $4.3 million. And of course, it's off of I-35 and Highway 33. Froze on me. 13 slide, we looked at a master plan for baseball and softball to move our baseball facilities out of the flood area at Cottonwood Flats, and then improving the 3 existing fields and adding 3 new fields for softball. Phase 1, just doing the softball, was 5.8. Doing the baseball was 4.7. Of course, we couldn't fund all that at one time, so we looked at a scaled-down version of doing 3 new softball fields, parking lots, and entrance. And we applied in August for a $1 million grant under the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and then we would provide $1 million match for that project. And we'll probably know sometime around December whether that project's funded. Street overlay this year, we're working with the street committee. We're looking at First and Springer. And then probably next month we will bring you a recommendation to go out for bids for Harrison Street Bridge project. And then project that just keeps coming back to us, the TAP grant on division. We will have to take another look at that project as well in October. Traffic signals, the permissive left turn signals on division in Harrison, Oklahoma. For all intents and purposes, they're finished, and we're just waiting for ODOT to finish some of their work up to turn those on. And then, of course, the project just recently finished. It was one to highlight Mineral Wells Park with the splash pad and the picnic pavilions in the playground area. Balance of our funds in FY20, we begin the year, this current year, with a little over $9 million. We will begin the current budget year with an estimated $10 million, and we will end with about $8.5 million. And the reason it goes down is because we will be making major expenditures out of the capital improvement projects, and it will be doing projects faster than revenues coming in. And then, of course, the wastewater treatment plant, the major expenditures on that. The rest of the funds will actually either stay the same or go up more. General fund, you can see each year we have in FY18, we brought in more revenue than we expended. Same way in 19, and estimated in 20, we will generate $342,000 more in revenue than we take in. And this year, of course, it's a balanced budget. We're projecting revenues and expenditures will be the same. Normally, we don't spend everything that we budget, but for operating purposes, you need to have it in the budget in case you need it. If you look at the increase of the FY20 budget from 12 million to 15 million, the majority of that is we are handling in our accounting process our sales tax differently. When the city did the bond issues for the water treatment plant, the sales tax revenue was pledged against that. And accounting purposes, we had been only transferring part of it to GPWA. This year, we've determined to do it appropriately, we will transfer it all over there. So the transfers went up $2.5 million. The budget went up 3.1. So you can see the major difference is transfers. And that's kind of a wash. You transfer it over, you don't need it because you have revenue stream, and then you move the sales tax back. But it makes you look like your budget's actually $3 million more than it is, because it shows up as a transfer in and then a transfer back. But that is just for credit enhancements for the bond issue. 4% salary increase is budgeted, cost of living and the step increases. And we have our health insurance on later in the agenda, and a 0% increase in our health insurance. The Public Works Authority, same thing, our balance continues to go up. This year we're projecting budgeting a balanced budget. And again, you can see the difference in transfers going from the general fund to Public Works Authority, and then they will come back. That's just a quick highlight of the budget. Didn't take a lot of time or go into a lot of detail since we did that at the budget workshop. But be glad to entertain questions.
Any questions from council? No? Okay, this being a public hearing, if there's anybody that has any questions from the room here, we'll entertain that. Not seeing any big movement towards the microphone. I'll close the public hearing and we'll move on to item number 5. Discussion possible action resolution 2020-13, which is adopting the fiscal year 2021 budget for general funds and miscellaneous funds. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion about the budget? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Unanimous approval then to pass resolution 2020-13. Item number 6, discussion possible action to authorize city staff to renew contract with the United Health for medical, dental, and vision, and Dearborn National for life and life and ADD.
Accidental
Kim.
death.
Oh, accidental death. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chris.
So I've got a short presentation to kind of cover some of the things that we went over and some of the changes and what our recommendation is going to be. So I also have with me today Dana Nursick. She's our partner with Benchmark that helps us with our benefits consultation. So a couple things that I want to go over is first the medical and RX comparison. So we got a total of seven different plans to look at when we're looking at medical. And the first one, the first column there is our existing plan, which is United Health. And then they're listed in order of the greatest, the most reduction in cost to the greatest, with the exception of the dual option there at the end. And the reason that they're at the end is because they're a little bit of an outlier, being a dual option. So in order to kind of make this spreadsheet a little bit easier to compare quickly, you can see that some of the text is in green, some of the text is in red, and the rest is in black. So green would be maybe a better benefit, and then the red would be maybe a less benefit than what our employees currently have, and then black would be like a neutral or the same. So you can see there, United Health is, like I said, our current provider. Some of the bids did come in a little bit lower than United Health, but we're going to continue to recommend United Health, and I'll dive into that a little bit later on into the presentation. But you can see there's some different network availability, and that's the primary reason. Again, I'll kind of show that a little bit more clear and a little bit further in the presentation. The next slide, the next slide is our dental comparison. So we had 5 different bids come in for dental. Again, we're recommending United Healthcare. You can see here the dental has a 0% increase for FY22. Some of the dental plans did come in a little bit lower than United Health, but it's important to note that in order to keep our costs low, we have to bundle health, dental, and vision with United Health in order to maintain the current 0% increase. And I'll again show that a little bit, what that breaks down to a little bit later in another slide. We had 5 different vision plan providers. Again, we're recommending United Health for FY22. And the last one is our live comparison, which we currently have Dearborn. We're recommending sticking with Dearborn. Standard did come in with a bid that would not be any increase, but it does require us to bundle with Standard vision and dental. So that's why we're recommending sticking with Dearborn. So here's the 3 different comparisons and a little bit more information on why we're recommending sticking with United Health. So that first option would be the lowest possible option. So you can see that if we went the lowest possible option, we would realize a 7.2% decrease. However, the reason that we're not recommending that, or that we're recommending United Health, is because with that lowest cost also comes a very limited network for our employees. And I'll show a little bit of an analysis of that, what that kind of looks like, but just kind of keep that in mind. The second option is to stick with a plan that's comparable to our network, and then just take the lowest of each one of the different health, dental, vision, and life. And you would see that would be a 2.1% increase if we just took the lowest out of each category with a comparable health network. So by sticking with United Health, we would realize a 0% increase, and then we would be able to maintain that bundle plan with health, dental, and vision. So that's one of the reasons that we're recommending that. So the next slide is going to go over some of the reasoning behind sticking with United Healthcare. Of course, when you switch from one provider to another, there's always going to be some disruption in how our health plan's currently being handled, right? Like the plan designs change from carrier to carrier. And another thing is that United Health seems to be very motivated to stick with the city of Guthrie. So for example, they had originally come in with an 11% increase for FY22, and they later came back and reduced that all the way down to a 0% increase. On top of that 0% increase, they also gave us a rate cap guarantee of 12% for next year if we renewed with them this year. Again, network coverage, and then they've got some value-added benefits this year that they've not offered before that they're going to offer to our employees. So this next slide kind of goes over the analysis that I was mentioning earlier. So the comparison between what our current network is today and the network going with the lowest cost plan. So you can see here, the blue circle is our existing network, and by switching to that community care HMO, which was the lowest cost provider, you can see our network significantly shrinks in several different categories. So our employees, basically what that translates to is our employees don't get as good of care, or they're paying a lot more out-of-pocket costs for the care that they need. This is just another way to look at that analysis. This analysis is specifically for specialists. So when employees have care that they really need to dive into their insurance for example, if somebody were to get cancer, for example, and they need to seek specialty care, So this is what our network comparison would be. So again, United Healthcare, our current service provider, is listed in blue, and then Community Care, the lowest cost option, is listed in orange. So some of the things, like I mentioned, United Healthcare is offering some value-added benefits. Some of the things that they are including to our group is at-home biometric screening. They have a weight loss program that's free to employees called Real Appeal. They have a plan called Rally, which encourages our employees to do have healthy behaviors, and then in return they get like benefits, like for example, they can get water bottles or tote bags, or anyways, what it is you do healthy things, and then we reward you. They have a Quit for Life program to help with smoking cessation, and they offer virtual visits, which are a big deal right now, free, no cost to our employees, no copay or anything. A new program that they're implementing next year would be the Cash Care program. So this is, like I said, it's brand new that they're offering to our group. And what it does is it gives our employees a debit card that's no cost to the employer, no cost to the employee, just a part of the United Healthcare plan, a $200 debit card to help with the cost of care. So for example, if they went to go see a preferred specialist, or if they went to go see their primary care provider, then they could utilize the $200 out of that debit card rather than having to reach into their pocket first. And then it's even more for family care. That's a $500 debit card. So that's a big benefit for our employees. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is part of this because of the COVID, that's why they're keeping everything down low?
Well, so our utilization rate was low, so that's good. That helped with our care. But I think a lot of it too is also that they're just motivated for us to stick with United Healthcare as their benefits provider.
What's our participation rate? If utilization rate was low, what's our participation rate look like in the amongst
As far
employees?
as how many employees are signed up, the majority of our employees are signed up. We do, I would say, probably less than 5 employees have waived the insurance because they've got other coverage. So if we're fully staffed, we have about 126 employees, so about 100, I would say about 120 on average.
That's employee only, not with their family.
That's
Right.
Yes.
Other questions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve their plan.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous approval to move forward with the plan as you've presented, Kristen. Thank you.
Good job, Kristen.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess you can stay right there. Discussion and possible action to award bid number 2020-10, City Hall roof renovation.
All right, so the City Hall roof renovation was one of the strategic goals that we came up with in 2019. So we've been working towards that. We've been working with Tony Blatt from Hornbeak Blatt Architects to help us get our bid specifications and for general guidance through the process, and for just really good guidance on what would be an ideal roof for us for long term here at City Hall. The original project was budgeted at $168,139 and some change. On August 13th, we received 5 bids. The bid that came in the lowest was with Ground Zero. They not only bid on the original project, but they also bid on the 3 alternatives. Alternative 1 being added roof insulation, alternative 2 being an upgraded membrane, which is the TPO style roof, is referred to as a membrane. Tony can answer more to that if you've got technical questions about that. But and then the third alternative is is adding walkway pads to kind of mitigate damage to the roof if anybody needs to go up and work on for example, our rooftop units, or really need access to the roof for any reason. So again, our original projected budget was just over $168,000. Ground Zero, with all three alternatives, came in with a bid of $121,000. I will note that that does not include the professional services fee of $8,500. So our recommendation is to award that bid to Ground Zero.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you.
Unanimous approval. Kristen, you're on a roll. Item number 8, discussion and possible action on the request for special use permit to allow for a church office, Church on the Hill, at 21 West Oklahoma. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. As was indicated, this is a special use permit. It's for right up the street here on Oklahoma at 210 West Oklahoma. It's a church on the hill. They were looking to have an office there. Just a couple things I'll add, and then I'll leave it to council if you have any questions of me. The applicant's here, and you can go from there. The original reason we had looked at a special use permit for this particular location, because it's an office, is we honestly didn't know what type of uses were going to be in there. The code requires that any type of religious church type uses requires a special use permit in the central business district. So again, at the time, we didn't have a lot of information or indication if religious type activities were going to happen there. So the council has a couple options to look at it in that regard, or if it's determined that there is truly just an office use and there is not any type of religious activities that we're going to go, we can essentially do away with the special use permit because an office is a permitted use in the central business district. The Planning Commission basically had a tie vote 2-2. One of the things that was kind of that coming about is they felt it was really an office, but they didn't want to approve the special use permit because then that would indicate that there was religious activities there, which then puts in some of the alcohol or able commission requirements for 300 feet in that. So essentially they were kind of at a deadlock, and instead of kind of hashing over it, they decided just to move it forward to the council for that discussion to continue. So with that, that's my presentation. The applicant is here, but if you have any other questions of me.
Okay, council?
That was a quick
Questions?
one.
Yeah, trying to make it quick. I know. The next one will be as quick too.
Okay. Any questions of Dan?
So,
Yep.
why is, I'm confused. I understand there's two issues here.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the church that wants to do the office space, and then there's another issue that we're gonna be hearing in a little bit.
Right.
So, why is this even coming as a special use
no,
permit
that-
if it's offices?
No, right. Again, that was the thing. Initially, we did not know with certainty that that was the only use that was going to be there. So at that point, because with the floor plan and the application in that, there wasn't a clear idea if religious activities were going to take place. So that's why we put it into the special use permit process. Now, through the hearing process and in conversations with them, if the council determines that, yes, it's truly just an office use and there is not going to be any religious activity, then a special use permit would not be needed. Office use is a permitted use by code. I did talk to Able, and they said that in that instance, even though it's a church, if it is truly an office use and there's no religious activities, they would look at it as such, and they would not impose the 300-foot requirement if, people serving or restaurants, or have alcohol there in that. So, like I
So
said,
if
but initially it was just not knowing exactly what was going to transpire.
So if we didn't hear or act on this special use permit thing, and we just eliminated this from the agenda, and they went in and created their offices, and then they started conducting church-type business, what's the ordinance at that point?
Again, it would come back to here, essentially through code enforcement, they would be given a letter saying, hey, you're only allowed to have an office use and strictly an office use. If there's religious activities, you will need to, again, apply for your special use permit and go through the process to get that approved to have your church or religious activities at that location.
So
And if we approve this special use,
no,
No, well, and see, that's where I guess the catch-22 comes. If you approve the special use, you're essentially saying it's a church use, because the only reason for the special use permit is because there would potentially be religious activities or a church use there.
Yeah, so I think that we just don't hear the special use section of this. It's a business, and if something changes otherwise, we go in at that point and deal with it.
And the applicant can confirm that, you know, again, what their intents are there and if they are going to have any type of, again, religious uses.
So
Or-
if the Able Commission absolutely does not look at office use as church activities, will they put that into writing for us?
They may, I didn't ask for them, I just called them to talk to them to see what they would say. You know, I don't know if they would, I assume they would. He felt very confident about not having an issue with it, but I don't know whether they would put it in writing or not.
So is this where the church offices have to give a letter to Able?
Well, again, there's a couple issues there. You know, again, one, if it's determined to be a religious activity in that, which then Able would come into play if there was any business that had a alcohol-related activity. There is the ability through Able for that church to have a waiver to say, we're fine, we don't care if there's, you know,
Yeah, but that
alcohol.
follows the building, not the.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of other things involved with that too, and that may come up in the next agenda item when there was clearly going to be a religious activity. Because, again, a lot of that comes back to how that's going to remain enforced if, and then the same thing, you look at the aspect, if we're going to approve a church use in this area or down here, and they go ahead and do the waiver, it's going to be difficult to say no to another church use given the unique area that the central business district is. And that one may say, no, we're not signing the waiver, you know, so you can't force them to do that. They may voluntarily. So that's some of the issues that come up with that whole issue.
One of the things that I think we need to be careful, a lot of things that happen in the pastor's office or at the church office, counseling with counselors that introduce religious content is a church service or religious activity, a religious library. So there's a lot of things that make something a church because the definition is primarily in regular use for worship, service, and religious activities. Well, that includes more than just Sunday service. There's a whole list of things that could be considered religious activities, but especially in the office, a religious library, counseling, weddings, those kind of things would all be considered religious services. So they wouldn't be able to do those kind of things if it's just going to be an office.
Yeah, and again, that's why this kind of went through the special use permit process, because we weren't clear, you know, to what extent, again, the uses that are going to transpire there.
So let me make clear though, if we do not hear the special use, they can have an office? If they're just having an office, there's nothing here for us to approve?
That's correct. If it would strictly be office, as Leroy had mentioned, is if there's no counseling or anything that would remotely be considered a religious activity, an office is a permitted use by the code and would not require a special use permit, even if it's the church, then, you know, even though it's a church. The problem comes in is when it introduced any type of religious activities.
Well, then that's when I asked what the ordinance
Yeah.
is, and then what's the scenario then? So it's permitted to be an office, let's say, and then all of a sudden it becomes a church. What's the deal then?
Billy's our attorney, he would have to probably follow up, but I would think the cleanest thing is if it's strictly an office, they could do that, but if you deny the special use permit, you're setting the stage and clearly saying that they cannot have church worship services and religious activities in that building.
Yeah.
If
So,
you deny it.
but by denying the special use permit, we also deny that from going in and having offices in that building, right?
Only
No.
if,
No,
if
It
they,
can still be an office.
if they convince us it's purely an office for financial internet.
Okay, so I'm confused, so we do need to hear the special use.
It sounds to me like if there is concern, I have concern that it may not be, quote, a church today, but it could be a church down the road, depending upon what happens inside those walls. And it sounds to me like our strongest position, if that in fact is the position of the council, would be to deny the special use up front, as opposed to not hear it, and then if we later on identify that there is church activities, then we go and say you got to have a special use permit, and we are in a process of fining or whatever in the processing. Is that correct? Are we in a strongest position if we hear and deny the special use?
Yeah, because again, it wouldn't necessarily prevent them from an office use, but it would clearly prevent them from any type of religious activities.
So did the church ask for the special use permit?
No, because it came about when they were moving into that building and are going to move into the other building, that use. And again, given the fact that there may be religious activities, again, which is a broad range from counseling and other stuff, we had again told them that if you were going to have anything of that sort, the code in the central business district requires a special use permit. So that's why it's been going through the special use permit process.
But on that building in particular, did the church say, well, we don't need the special use permit because it's only going to be an
Well,
office?
yeah, you can talk to them. They have indicated that they're only going to use it as an office.
But did they tell us that? And that they didn't need I got a reason for asking.
No. Essentially, at the planning commission and that, they had, said that they're looking to have it as an office. Now, as you know, the planning commission is a recommendation body in that, so we're just, again,
Right.
making sure it goes through the proper process.
Okay.
But in the application, there wasn't any clear indication they were or were not, and that's why we, again,
Okay.
put it through the process.
I would like to make a statement. I've worked in a church office, in the financial part and then as the administrative assistant. And I do not see how those functions can be separated. You're doing church business, even if it's financial or if it's administrative or what else. People come in off the street, they want to speak to somebody, and they discuss church business. Therefore, I would strongly recommend that churches and their offices should be one of the same facility and not have them scattered around, and certainly not in our main business district.
But isn't church business and preaching and having mass two separate issues?
No, they very clearly, in my opinion, are connected.
I'd like to hear from the.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to have the applicant.
I'm here representing Max Fairchild.
State your name and address, please.
Doug Powell. You want my address?
Yeah, please. That's what it says right in front.
1402 North Canyon Way.
Okay, thanks,
All
Doug.
right. This office building is going to be strictly used for just business of the church until the new facility is going up 3.5 miles north of State Highway 33 on North Midwest Boulevard. It's already in construction. There's a separate building that's going to be used for church facilities, for counseling and all that out there. This is just a matter to get the business going. The church will not be conducting any church services in that building.
So is this just a temporary office, or is it gonna be a permanent office?
I believe, and when I talked to Max, I believe everything will be moved to the ranch, but it's going to take about 9 months to complete the building. It's a big building. And there are temporary facilities getting ready to go up as soon as this rain passes on the ranch itself.
Okay.
So is that where it's going to be?
That's where the main church is going, yes. This is just going to be to conduct the business till they get the church up and running out there.
So if we deny the special use, how does that affect what the church is using and intends on using that space for in the next 9 to 12 months?
Well, there's not going to be any church services in there. They're putting up a huge.
No, that's
So it's
not
not
what I
going to
asked.
affect you whatsoever?
That's not what I
No,
asked.
it's not going to affect
It
us.
just lets them go
It's just
on.
an office. It's just like,
Yeah.
That's my point.
yes.
So
just-
there you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Any other questions from council?
So did
Okay,
we
I'll
create-
entertain a motion.
I'm gonna make a motion to deny the special use permit.
I'll second that. Any other discussion? All in favor of the denial of the special use, raise your hand. Approval, same sign. Unanimous approval then to not approve the special use permit for 210 West Oklahoma Avenue. Item number 9, discussion for request for special use for the location of 202 East Harrison. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is the other location. It's right at the corner of Wentz and Harrison. It was most recently the Vance Upfitters. This one definitely had a, if you want to say, clear intent that they were going to have religious activities, ministerial services. It wasn't as clear on the application, but there was definitely a public, out in the public that they were doing such, and even at the Planning Commission meeting, it was there. So again, this is one of those things where, you know, a land use decision that has to be made on whether or not it's an appropriate area for a church. The only thing I'll add is, as I indicated before, that introduction of a use such as this, because we have such a limited area that the central business district has, it's very difficult to justify in one location you can have a church, in another location you cannot, because it's such a small area. And going back to the Able Commission things, this would clearly be one of those where the 300-foot radius would be, and even though this particular church may say, well, we'll do the waiver, I'm not really sure how that's going to hold up over time, if it will, or again, even if there was another church that wanted to come to the downtown and they said, no, we're not going to do a waiver, you have all of those there. The Planning Commission did make a decision on this one. They were clear that they felt, given the kind of uniqueness and smaller aspect of our district versus other downtowns, that it was not an appropriate use, and they voted 3-1 to deny the special use permit.
Questions of Dan and the council?
So is it a church event center or is it an event center?
The indication, and again, the applicant's here so they can talk. Again, with the information we had, it was going to be primarily event center, but there was going to be religious activities that were going to be taken there, youth ministerial services and others. And as Leroy indicated, there's a whole list. And so once again, that's why the special use permit and the need for the special use permit came in. And just in general with zoning, even though let's say 75% of that building may be for a different use, you permit it based on the most restrictive use. In this case, the most restrictive is the religious use, hence needing the special use permit.
Now, did they request the special use permit?
No, once again, when they were coming to, you know, look at that building and move into that building, that's when all the use came up and what they were going to do. And so at that time, you know, in basically conversation or communication with them, we let them know that there was a special use permit that was required. And so since that time frame, they've, you know, obviously submitted the application and have been moving forward through that process.
Any other questions of Dan? Doug?
Again, I'll reiterate this, Mr. Fairchild, this building is going to be an event center. It's not going to have church activities. It's going to be able to be leased out for concerts, birthdays, Christmas parties. It will be called the Fairchild Event Center. The building was built in 1927. There's almost 23,000 square foot on this building. And I can tell you, I've worked for Mr. Fairchild for 12 years, and knowing and doing business with him, and seeing the things he's done, this building will be first class. It will be an asset for Guthrie for events. He's planning on bringing in name brand concerts, etc. But all the church facility, all the church activity will be at the Double F Ranch where the church is going up.
So denial of this permit means nothing then?
Well,
To
you won't need
to
a
that.
special use permit for an event center.
You won't need it.
You won't need it?
Yes, sir.
Another
Max is very interested in Guthrie, and Max would like to see this economy grow. He wants to buy several more buildings that are sitting there going dilapidated that he wants to restore and put in restaurants, etc.
Well, I want to be real clear. The denial of this doesn't affect this one way or the other then, because you're not going to have church services of any
No, sir.
kind there.
No, sir.
There's no special
I think
use
it's
requ-
all in the definition of church.
Well, there's no special use permit required for an event center.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. But I'm not so sure that Mr. Powell's definition of church and Able Commission, or maybe even myself definition of church or church activity are the same.
Well, but by denying the special use permit, you're denying church activity
Right.
at that building.
Yeah, because they
That's
haven't
what
had a
you're doing.
special use permit to
Right.
have it.
Okay,
No,
because you're not gonna have church activity at the building, so a denial of it is in order. So I make a motion to deny the special use permit.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny the special use permit. Any other discussion?
One question.
Yes?
If we go ahead with this and everybody approves it, and they do decide to have a youth rally or something in there that's associated with the church, what do we do?
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, I've been to Christian concerts and other things at the Cox Convention Center. Having one event doesn't constitute. I mean, you can buy a beer there and go see a Christian
Or
concert at
somebody-
the same
the event.
place. So I don't understand what one event, if they want to lease it for one event or what have you. What I do understand is actually making sure that that's the only use for that building, which would require the special use. But having one event, I don't know if that really
Leroy?
constitutes an
Yeah,
event.
but what if,
I would point it, do you want to go first?
no,
The definition is primarily and regularly used for worship service and religious activities. Periodically using it does not conflict with that definition. It's just like North Church having an event at the depot, periodically. If there was a concert that was a religious group there periodically, then it is not in conflict with our definition. It's when you have Wednesday night, like was in the newspaper article, they were gonna have church services there every Wednesday. That would be a conflict.
But by denying the special use permit, that's all gone.
right.
Right.
So North Church can have a concert there and lease the facility if they want to.
And they can rent it for a wedding. That's considered a religious service, just like Drexel Event Center, but
But it's
the
an event.
religious service is not why they exist. They exist to be a facility to facilitate different events.
Right.
So I don't see anything wrong with that.
Jim?
No, I was just
Oh.
voting.
Yeah, so we
You
got
ready
a
to
motion
vote?
and a second.
Go.
I got that, Brian.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny the special use permit. All those in favor of that denial, raise your hand. Unanimous approval then to deny the special use permit for 210 West, 202 East Harrison Avenue. You getting ready for the next one?
He's done getting ready to do zoning.
I'm number 10, discussion possible action to adopt ordinance number 3338, amending city ordinance code, chapter 16, yada, yada, yada.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. In summary, this is an update to our planned unit development ordinance. Our current ordinance dates back to 1977, so it's done very well for itself, I think. We haven't had a whole lot of PUDs in our community. Anyway, one of the big reasons for the update is our PD, because it's so old, is somewhat outdated for what would typically be the zoning processes associated with planned unit development. There's some specific verbiage in there that kind of kicks a few things out. So updating it's going to go a long way to help future developments come through. One of the things that our current PUD is it's an actual separate zoning district. One of the things that a more modern planned unit development is it essentially acts as an overlay. So it's applicable to any zoning district. So if you're talking a single family residential development, it'd be an R1 PD. If you're talking about some commercial development, it would be a C2 PD. It wouldn't be a separate zoning per se. So that's what it's, part of this is to eliminate the R5 zoning district, which is a PUD, and basically all of the all of the areas in the code that refer to that. And so again, if somebody comes in and it's going to be in a single-family area, it'll go from an R1 to an R1 PD. It still also allows the ability to, if they're in a single-family area and they want to maybe do multifamily as part of that, to go from an R1 to an R2 PD in that. So it still was required to go through the Planning Commission for recommendation and the City Council for the final decision. It'll still have a specific development plan that's associated to it that will outline all the uses, and it would also allow, as most PDs do, for exceptions to a development. One of the most common ones that I think of and can use as an easy example is, in a lot of times in an R1 development, they want to add some open space or they want to have some park facilities in that. And so the density overall is going to not change, but they basically want to cluster their housing into maybe a certain area, different areas. And because of that, the lot sizes may be 5,000 square feet, where our code currently says 6,000 square feet for minimum sizes. So the PD allows for those exceptions because the area and the community is gaining some benefit from that. Again, more open space, park space, and that type of thing. The other thing is that it will allow for an increase in residential density, but only it can max out at 25%. So there are some cases, if they have justification to say, hey, you know, our normal is maybe 7 dwelling units per acre, we're looking to do 9 dwelling units per acre or 8 or something, there is the ability for some adjustment in that density. And like most planned unit developments, this one included, it will put timeframes in there. So once it's approved, they have up to 2 years to get a building permit and start it. If not, it expires. It would allow a one-time extension by the city council if they are getting close and show that they're actually going to move forward. It would allow for that. But like I said, it's what I would call your more updated modern plan development. So with that, I'll leave it back to the council if you have any questions.
Okay, questions by council?
What is this? You've looked at this, Leroy.
It's typical, you see it in most communities, it gives you flexibility. You may have a floodplain go through a piece of property where you can't develop it, so you may use patio homes or smaller lots, and you have the same density, same number of units, but they're more concentrated in the areas you can develop. In the floodplain areas, you would have walking trails, park settings that give you the green space so that your concentration is not any bigger or more dense than a regular subdivision. So it is a good thing to allow development of some of these type areas. There is oversight because the preliminary and final plans of the PUD have to come to the city council, the planning commission, city council. So you will have input in approving each PUD. Dan changed one word I recommended in section 11.3.
Oh, yeah, I
It said a
forgot to
PUD
mention.
shall be permitted in any district or any location in a city. That should say may instead of shall. That was my only recommendation.
And I'll just add real quick, because, well, you know me, I like to talk, but one of the other things that I wanted to put that the PUD, and especially in this type of PUD, becomes very helpful sometimes too, is when you have a project and they're looking to maybe have to rezone, and going to a rezone, you know, going through the rezoning process, you can't put conditions on it, you can't limit it to certain uses. So in some cases, they may desire to go through the planned unit development to give some certainty or security to not only the city, but even adjacent residents. And then, you know, it gets tied to the land, but also it allows for the ability to put conditions on it, unlike basically a rezone where it's either all or nothing. And so sometimes you see the planned unit development where, again, it'll be a C2 to a C2 PD type use in that, because again, they're trying to get a specific use. It can be approved for that specific use and with some conditions, so it helps also in some of those manners, rather than just doing a straight rezone, so.
Any other questions?
Make a motion to approve.
A motion?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous approval then.
Good job, Dan.
Ordinance 3338, or the, adoption of that concerning the planned unit development districts. Item number 11, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance 3339, amending city ordinances concerning use of golf carts, utility vehicles, etc. upon public streets. Billy?
Thank you,
Taking
Mayor.
care of this?
I'll present this one. So currently, the city ordinance does not allow golf carts and utility vehicles to be operated on city streets. A request has been made that that you guys consider changing that. State statute allows the municipal government to regulate the usage, and that's what this ordinance is gonna do. So I'm giving you an ordinance which is going to allow golf carts to be operated so long as specific safety requirements are met. They have to be permitted by the police department. Chief has reviewed this and actually added a couple safety requirements that have been added into this. It's gonna limit them to 25 miles an hour. They can only be on city streets. They can only cross highways at perpendicular angles. It also, through the permitting process, allows permits to be withdrawn. There are penalties included for people who are not doing it appropriately or not permitted. And I think it's a thorough ordinance to be a thorough regulation of the use of golf carts and utility vehicles.
So, and do they don't have to be insured, obviously, right?
Yes,
Or
they
do
do have to be insured.
They do have to be insured, because that was my next question. They're crossing perpendicular or not, and they go flying out in front of you. And now all of a sudden there's an accident.
I know what Billy will do.
Yeah, we know what Billy will do, but
I have concern on the special requirements. We've had, the lights were listed on there, the limitation on miles per hour. What about brake lights and what about turn signals? I mean, if we're talking about these as vehicles, that's what we have on our streets. I didn't see that in there. Did I miss it?
Brake lights are required, so brake lights have to be visible from 100 feet, headlights have to be visible from 500 feet. Turn signals are required, or they can use hand signals, and that matches state statute.
But back to the insurance, I mean, is it state minimum liabilities? What is it?
Yes, state minimum liability,
Which I don't even know what that is anymore. It doesn't matter.
2550, I believe, like.
Is that what it is?
Now, does that
Okay.
include like four-wheelers as well?
Yep.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a
second.
motion, and
I'll
James,
second.
Second, okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous approval then to move forward with let's see, where are we? Ordinance number 3339, allowing golf carts and utility vehicles with the special regulations that were added. Thank you very much. Item number 12, discussion.
Mayor, if I may, I included in that the emergency language is not stated as emergency or not, but I did give the council that option. It's part of the ordinance.
So we can vote.
You can vote to make it effective right now if you want to.
I wouldn't vote in an emergency.
Why not?
Why not?
I would
Let the people start moving with it and start
Read that off.
letting the
Well,
chief start.
my
I mean,
only concern would be we don't have an application, we don't have the
Stickers.
registration stickers to sell. You know, if we have people lined up tomorrow and you tell us to do it.
otherwise it goes
Well, I
in
don't-
30 days,
what-
right?
What's the urgency here?
Yeah.
What's that?
Is there?
Well, he just said that he put it in for that.
Yeah, I don't see that there's an urgency.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't.
Okay, all right, we're passing. Thanks. Item number 12, discussion and possible action to accept the 2020 VOCA grant. Chief?
This is the grant we received, I think this is our 6th year now, that funds our 2 victim advocate positions. We did receive an 11% cut this year. It's not a huge deal to us overall. We were told to expect a 30%, and most programs were cut 30%, but ours still retains some pretty good viability in the eyes of the state and the feds that fund it. So we don't have it broke down like we did for you last year because we have not received the specific breakdown numbers from the DAC, District Attorney's Council, who runs the grant. So I'm hoping you'll accept it. We're kind of in a hurry for that because the two advocates would need to get paid, beginning October 1st.
So the grant's 183K.
Yes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second.
Thank you all.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous approval then to accept the VOCA grant for this year. Item number 13, discussion and possible action to authorize city staff to continue to insure the Armory building. Kristen?
So the Armory, located at 720 East Logan Avenue, since March of 2011, we've had on our insurance policy as under functional building replacement costs, which essentially means that we're under insuring the building. That way, if there was ever, like a tornado that completely mowed it down, the amount that we're insuring it for is to just rebuild the functionality of the building, which right now it's primarily used for storage. So this is a requirement of OMAG, our insurance carrier, to bring this to council and seek approval on it. And I'll mention that if we wanted to build a facility as large as the Armory is today, probably that amount wouldn't cover for such a large building. But in order to, it's what we elected to do in 2011 was cover it for $500,000. It's gone up a little bit incrementally throughout the year due to inflation.
Okay.
Any questions?
Questions of Kristen? Okay, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous approval then to move forward with that insurance. Item number 14, possible discussion, possible action to cancel regular city council meeting of September 15th. the week
So moved.
That was quick. Second.
We have
I pulled
a
a
motion.
Steve.
We have a motion and a second and a question.
Why are we canceling that?
Because-
I guess the closeness to this meeting, since this was a emergency meeting, I don't know any other.
Nothing
I
on the
guess we don't
agenda
have
for
any
that?
pressing. We don't have any pressing
The
issues.
items that we had scheduled for next week, we put on this agenda.
Okay,
There you go.
all right.
That's why this is so long.
Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous approval then to cancel our Tuesday, September 15th council meeting. Item number 15, comments from council. Vice Mayor Case.
The traffic lights are coming back on, guys. I stopped at one of them on my way here, so I know they're starting to work, so we're almost there. Thanks for your patience.
Councilman Long.
No comments.
Councilman Taylor.
Winter has arrived, I think. It's, I think 49 or 50 right now, so if you haven't got ready for it, make sure you put your long handles on. Otherwise, thank you, staff. Appreciate all the hard work. Mineral Wells looks great. If you haven't been down there, go down and take a look at it. Other than that, that's it.
Councilwoman Paget.
Well, sometimes it's hard to get up and present time after time after time, Dan, but they all did a good job this evening. Thank you all very much. Bundle up.
Councilman Bothroyd.
Yeah, the same. Everybody did a good job, and hopefully the decisions we made tonight are solid for everyone.
Councilman Channel.
We've been unanimous all evening. These next 4 deals, we've gave up all the easy ones, Leroy.
Good. All right, my comment is wear the mask when appropriate. Item number 16, approval to convene into executive session for the purpose of discussing the annual review and retention of employment for the city clerk and treasurer. B, the annual review and renewal of the employment agreement for the city judge and alternate judge. C is the annual review and renewal of letter of engagement for the city attorney. And D is annual review and employment agreement for the city manager. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous to move into executive session.
Don't go away.